Well, hey everybody, John Lanier, and this is every WWE European Champion ranked from worst to best. Yes, more ranking videos. WCW Championships, basically the TV title, the World Championship, the US title, the Cruiserweight title. In fact, I might just mash up the WWE and, WCW, like Cruiserweight and US Champions into just one list, so those will be pretty long. And the WCW Tag Team Championship. Mainly probably just from when Turner owned the company, but we'll see. More ranking videos because I did so many which was worse and unpopular wrestling opinion episodes last month that I figured it's time to get away from that, just put them to the side, even though people enjoyed them, and do some ranking videos and just have some fun. Weekly reviews, New Japan content, Best of Super Juniors, G1, that kind of stuff will still happen, but I'm very busy with work during the summer, so I will do what I can, but I'm not going to burn myself out, and so I hope you guys enjoy these as they pop up occasionally. Thank you guys so much for the continued support on the channel, but let's jump right into it with 27 European champions taking place from March of 97 until it was retired in the summer of 2002. There were some good champions. There were some bad champions. By the time, we got to about 2000, even though there were some good people that held the title, that title was starting to be forgotten about, and especially by 2001. But anyway, here we go with number 27, RVD. He won it in a unification match with Jeff Hardy, and it was retired. Nothing against RVD, but therefore with the title retired, sorry, he's got to be voted the worst. 26, Chris Jericho. He held it for one day. He won it at WrestleMania 2000, and it was done after that. Hooray! I believe Eddie Guerrero won it from him because China screwed him over. We then get number 25, Bradshaw. He held it for 10 days. It was 10 days too long. Sorry, Bradshaw was never really much of a singles champion, even though him with the hardcore title sort of made sense until they retired that son of a bitch. But with this, it just, he was champion for 10 days. Did it really fucking matter? No, not really. And this was during the time when the European Championship was pretty much seen as complete bullshit, even though it had a rich history in the beginning. Just really wasn't used all that well in the last year plus. Number 24, Jeff Jarrett. He had it for one day. I believe it was in a I believe he won the title, both the Intercontinental and the European title from D'Lo Brown, and then gave the European title to Mark Henry. There was a lot of tossing around the titles in 1999. Which I just didn't fucking get. But yeah, Jeff Jarrett, one day, come on. Crash Holly, at number 23, 2 days. I like Crash Holly. He died way too soon. I really think they could have gotten a lot more out of him. And had he not passed away, I think they could have used him pretty damn well. He really wasn't an incredibly good worker, so it's a shame. And he has some pretty good charisma. Made the hardcore title made the most out of the hardcore title, that is. But it just, him as European champion, okay, it happened a little bit. I really feel like they could have gotten more out of him. I don't know if he would have wrestled for the company much longer, but had he not tragically passed away, I think he could have had a pretty good career outside of WWE if they let him go. But his time as European champion, 2 days. What's memorable about it? He held it for 2 days. Cool. Then we get to number 22, Spike Dudley. He held it for 28 days. Do you remember that? Because I kind of fucking don't, and I like Spike Dudley. Got nothing against the guy. The guy, for how slight in stature he was, really thin and really small, he could take some incredible bumps. Bumps he probably shouldn't have taken, especially in a match with Mike Awesome in an ECW 2000 pay-per-view. Sweet Jesus, he took a lot of bad bumps. But his time in WWE was decent. He held it for almost a month, so they must have thought something good of him. But yeah, he was never really a singles champion for that long. I don't even think they held the Cruiserweight title that long. So yeah, it was meh. Number 21, Mark Henry, 34 days. Yeah. Mark Henry was a much better singles champion when he had the Hall of Pain run in 2011. His time with the ECW title wasn't so bad either, 3 years earlier, which was given to him basically because of the whole Michael Hayes incident. Good job, Michael Hayes. Good job on exposing your racism back then. Whatever the context was, it was just so fucking bad. But anyway, Mark Henry is European champion. Like I said, Jeff Jarrett gave it to him, I believe, and he held it for a little bit, and then it was tossed around. It was tossed around a lot, especially after the first champion, or after a few champions here that I'm mentioning. It really was just tossed around like a trinket, which is a shame because it should have been seen as a landmark title because WWE had a good footprint and, a good fan base in Europe, and still does, but at the time, that's why the European Championship was originally created. That was one of the reasons, at least. We then get to number 20, Jeff Hardy held it for 13 days. Meh. 13 days, cool, whatever. Nothing against Jeff, but that's just a freaking blip on the radar. And again, tossing the title around a whole bunch. Number 19, Shawn Michaels, 93 days. I know people are upset that I'm probably putting Shawn Michaels this low. Look, it was great heat. What they did was One Night Only, 97, where he beat British Bulldog, even though British Bulldog's sister, who had cancer, was in the front row, and Bulldog was told he would win in his home country, by the way. Shawn getting the heat and getting the title wasn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but the fact that he never defended it afterwards, that's why he's ranked this low. It just made the title that was built up pretty damn well by Bulldog ridiculous. I mean, it made it a freaking trinket. And then they really didn't do all that great stuff when Triple H beat Shawn Michaels for it, and then held on to it for a bit, even though he had some good matches once he got over this knee injury that he had, which may have been legit or not. Shawn Michaels' win was incredible because it was good heat. I mean, it was divisive. I'm not necessarily certain I liked it, but I get why they did it. But he just should have... He just should have defended it more. The fact that he didn't was just ridiculous. And then we get to number 18. Val Venis, 58 days as European champion. Yeah, his time as the Intercontinental champion was not very good. His time as European champion. Big Balboski won it and almost held it for 2 months. Hooray! Number 17, Mideon, 34 days as European champion. I mean, at one point they had him wear a fanny pack and have him wear flesh tone tights and have him be naked Mideon. I mean, I'm sorry, like, what exactly do you want me to say about that? I forgot he was European champion. Unfortunately, for all the wrong reasons, people tend to remember the fanny pack wearing naked Mideon. Not necessarily a good way to be remembered. But apparently he's a chef now and caters to people. Good job on him for making the best out of his life and doing something great after wrestling. Seriously, good job. And he actually was a good worker. It's a shame that he's not really remembered all that well beyond goofiness. Then we get to number 16, Shane McMahon, held it for 48 days. Shane McMahon was European champion longer than some of the guys on this list, and that's a bit sad. Now, at this point, it was in his feud with XPac, and it was a way to kind of get XPac over more and get Shane in the ring and have him be just a full-on dick heel, which is a good thing. They're not repeating it 20 years later, except they are, and it's annoying because parts of the company have advanced very well in 20 years, and then we still have the McMahons on TV, which I'm sure is a USA Network call, but good God, we don't need it. Now back to this. Shane's European champion was fine. He was a smarmy, jackass, rich, spoiled kid heel. It was fine. It was fine. Number 15, Perry Saturn. He held it for almost 40 days. I like Perry. I think Perry was a very good worker. I think he kind of got a bit of a raw deal. I know he beat up a jobber at one point because his jobber kept screwing up in matches, or I think, almost hurt Perry or something like that, and he went nuts, which I kind of don't blame him. I'm not saying he should have beaten the shit out of the guy, but I get why he was mad. He was European champion for a little bit. They really screwed up the Radicals a whole lot, didn't they? It's fucking sad that they did. Number 14, Kurt Angle, 52 days as European champion. Then he was a dual champion because he won the Intercontinental title soon after. And yeah, he was a dual champion, then he lost them both. Lost the Intercontinental to Benoit and then the European to Jericho, despite the fact that he never got pinned in that match at WrestleMania 16. But yeah, he was a cool European champion. He was like, this is when he was like the aloof heel and everything. And he was really, really good, but he was like thinking that he was America's hero, and he really, really wasn't. This was before he was actually America's hero, like in the eyes of WWE fans at least. But yeah, Kurt Angle is champion. It was fine. Number 13, Owen Hart, 53 days. I miss Owen to this day. Owen was could have been a great European champion. Didn't hold the title for very long. I wish he did, because he could have been the perfect follow-up to when, Shawn was champion. They should have actually just gone with Owen beating Shawn. But no, they couldn't do that. That would have made too much sense. They had to make a comedy joke out of the whole damn thing. Yeah, I didn't really like that. I mean, it was great that Owen won it, but they waited too long to have him win it, and I just didn't like the build. Still, Owen was champion. At least he can call himself that. We then get number 12, Al Snow, 46 days. Al Snow was a really good worker, and I'm sure still is. I don't know if he wrestles anymore. I believe he's got a stake or an ownership in Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is great. And Al is a pretty damn good trainer. He has trained a whole lot of really great talents. But his time as a singles wrestler, at least in WWE, yes, the hardcore stuff was great, but anytime people tried to take him, or they tried to push him as a serious wrestler, it just didn't work because the whole head gimmick is what got him over, and something didn't fire about, even though he was a really good worker. Just, 46 days was what it was. A lot of these are only one reign, you may realize, because there are very few multiple reigns until I get to about the top, 7 here. Yeah, that's why I say the hot potato, 27 different champions in a 5-year period, and most of them were just one reign. And one of these was, 200 plus days. So that should give you just an idea of just how much they toss the title around. But then we get to number 11, DDP, 49 days. He was European champion, held on to it for a bit, and, beat Christian at WrestleMania 18, and he was gone from the company soon after because he injured his neck, I believe, in a match against Hardcore Holly. And it wasn't Hardcore's fault, it wasn't DDP's fault, it was just an accident that happened. But yeah, his time as European champion was short-lived. It was cool to see him compete in a match in the same venue where he drove a pink Cadillac down at, WrestleMania 6, 12 years prior. That was pretty cool, but other than that, it was great to see DDP as champion, but by then they had cut the legs out from under him well before that, and nothing was going to get him over. And which is sad, because DDP even at that point could have still been a great asset to the company. They just didn't see it that way. Number 10, Test, 93 days. I like Test. Test passing away way too damn soon. 93 days, 3 months, that's something. I believe he feuded with Eddie Guerrero when it came to this title. And I'm sure he feuded with other people, but some of that's murky to me. But it's a shame the Test, passed away so soon. Imagine what he could have been doing in wrestling. He might have retired in, a few years afterwards, but he was a pretty damn good worker, especially before he got all juiced up. But this time, European champion, he was fine. He was fine as a European champion, but I don't remember too much about it. So we're going to move to number 9. Hurricane, 53 days. I like Hurricane. I think Hurricane, once he was Gregory Helms and Cruiserweight champion for a while and trying to make that title mean something, things got better. As Hurricane, he was obviously super over, and I'm not taking anything away from the gimmick, but I think they could have gotten more out of it. Like him being, there were flashes of brilliance. Him and Rosie, the superhero in training, SHIT in other words, they were fine. They were a good team. His time as European champion, it was goofy. And Hurricane did goofy well, and I'm sure still does goofy well. But whatever, it was fine. We then get to number 8, Christian, 91 days. And then in his feud with DDP, lost the title, kept losing his temper, couldn't regain the title. Yeah, I don't know. I like Christian. I liked him as a singles champion. I always felt like they could have done better with him as world champion. Hey, this is at least when they were trying to give him something to do. But having him throw the tantrums and this kind of stuff didn't really set well with me. I thought it was unnecessary. And it wasn't very good comedy. That's my opinion. But it led to a decent feud with DDP, so it was what it was. Then get number 7, XPac. 134 combined days over 2 reigns. XPac really was, and I'm sure still is, a good worker. I have obviously not seen any of his recent work. I think he's basically retired now, because he did beat his body to shit and has suffered a lot of injuries. Unfortunately, he seems to be better now as far as in a better place mentally and physically. But at this time, him as European champion wasn't a bad thing. He feuded with Shane. He had other good things that he did as European champion, and for a time, he was pretty over. The whole thing of XPac heat, I think, came from the fact that the company just kept switching him up and kept doing a whole bunch of bullshit with him, and eventually just all this heat fell on him, which I don't quite get, unless there were interviews that he was doing and he was just, or unless he was like railing against the fans during commercials, grabbing the mic and just telling everybody they sucked and they could go, suck a you-know-what or something like that. Unless he was doing shit like that, I don't quite get the whole thing of XPac heat, but it was what it was. His time as European champion, though, he was good. He helped kind of reestablish that championship as something credible, because he was somebody you could take seriously as a competitor. Even though he was a little bit bigger than he was as 1-2-3 Kid, he was still legit in the ring, at this time at least. And then we get to number 6, Eddie Guerrero, 136 combined days, 2 reigns. I like Eddie. I love Eddie. I miss Eddie, and I liked him as European champion. I think he could turn anything into gold, no matter how shit it was. He made the Rey Mysterio, Dominic, custody storyline thing tolerable somehow, which I still, yes, they fought for the custody of Rey's child with custody papers on a ladder, hung above a ladder. And people wonder why, sometimes wrestling is seen as kind of stupid. Even though I love wrestling, there are some times where I'm wondering what the actual fuck. Great ladder match, stupid stipulation. Eddie did great stuff, though, as European champion. He did. He could make anything work. He, face or heel, didn't matter. He was good. He was a good representation for that title. Because his style spoke volumes in the U.S., obviously in Mexico, or even in Europe. He was over pretty much everywhere he went. Number 5, Matt Hardy, 123 days. Matt was a good European champion. This is kind of when they were testing the waters of having the Hardys being single stars, while still also teaming up. And it was a good idea, and Matt worked well. He held it for just about 4 months, just a little over 4 months. But he was good. I'm not going to say he was great. Matt has certainly shined more than Jeff lately, especially in the last few years, even though I didn't care for the broken stuff at first. I came around to appreciate it a little bit, even though it's kind of goofy, but that's the whole point of it. Matt here being taken as a serious competitor, he did work well as European champion. Even if maybe ultimately you can't remember too much about his feuds, he did work really hard and had some good matches. Number 4, Triple H, 2 reigns, 151 combined days. The fact that he was champion, beating Shawn in that joke of a match, that didn't start off the title all that good. But then people compared that to the finger poke of doom, and I'm sorry. And this is where I'm going to kind of maybe spoil a little bit of something for a future which was worse episode. But what Shawn and Triple H did with the European title was nothing compared to what Nash and Hogan did with the world title and the finger poke of doom. European title was just a secondary title, not the main title. Had they done with the main title, it would have been worse. Back to Triple H. He was a good European champion. I'm not the biggest fan of Triple H, the main eventer, but he was a good European champion. Once they got that whole thing out of the way of how he won the title, and then how he defended against Owen and others, and kept being, and did well as champion, it fucking worked. It fucking worked really well. Because he was a good heel at this time. It was just weird how they tossed the title back and forth with some of these guys, and then they wonder why no one took it seriously after a bit. Well, you can't do that with a championship. Speaking of tossing around, we get to D'Lo Brown at number 3, 130 days combined, 4 reigns. Yeah, little too much tossing around there. D'Lo is an incredible athlete. I'm sure still is. He had did the best he could in WWE, including that Terry Reynolds miscarriage angle. That's not a fault against Terry Reynolds. It's a fault against Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, those idiots for writing that shit. But D'Lo made everything work as well as he could. He was really goddamn good. I really did enjoy what he did, even though he didn't hold the title for very long. And then get to number 2, William Regal. We get 4 reigns, 177 days. William Regal, Intercontinental or European champion. He did make it work. He was a better European champion than he was Intercontinental champion, but also had the European title stayed around, say till 2009 or so, this list obviously would have been a whole lot longer. It would have been interesting to see how much more Regal could have won it. You could argue he's the greatest European champion of all time. Except he's not, in my opinion. He's the second greatest of all time. He did, add a lot of credence to that, the British style and everything. And the fact that he could work with just about anybody. Even when he had health issues, he could still work well with just about anybody. And his time as European champion was quite good. Kind of wish they would have kept the title around a little bit just to see how much better they could have done with maybe guys like Lance Storm and stuff like that. But I get why they got rid of it, because they weren't really using it all that well in 2002. But it would have been interesting to see what else somebody could, like Regal or others, could have done had it stayed around. But he was a good European champion. But number 1, the British Bulldog. He was the first ever European champion, and he was the best. That match against Owen Hart, in the European Championship Tournament Finals, still sticks out in my mind. I believe he was in Germany, if I remember right. And when Bulldog was motivated, and he was goddamn motivated in that, it was perfect watching him in the ring. He really was the complete package when he was fucking motivated. I wish the Bulldog had been WWE champion. In fact, that might actually be a list I work on in the future, where I talk about best, where I talk about, the 10 wrestlers who should have won the WWE championship. At least in my personal opinion. But it would have to be retired ones. But anyway, Bulldog just was absolutely incredible as European champion. He could have great matches with just anybody. Again, if he was motivated, he really was that goddamn good. It's a damn shame the Bulldog died as young as he did. I think he died just before his 40th birthday. I know why, and I'm not going to shy away from it. He had drug issues. It's just a shame that he passed away, but he is the greatest European champion of all time. That is going to be my list, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe. My Twitter handle's in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.